case you didn't notice, there is a virus going around that has caused a global pandemic. I am a full-time musician who plays all sorts of live shows for a living. I usually play 3 to 4 concerts a week. However, all my gigs have been canceled indefinitely because of the coronavirus, so I'm performing from my apartment in an attempt to keep my music train moving through the world. Stop in and listen, say hello from a distance, and throw some money in my tip jar on your way out. Hello and welcome to episode 10 of the Fast Heart Mart CoVideo podcast. I'm your host, Fast Heart Mart. If you want to know why I'm called Fast Heart Mart, just look it up. Episode 10 is a special episode because I interviewed my dear parents who came for a visit to San Diego and all this mess, and it was really good to see them. So I'll be showing that later. But first, a word from my sponsors. This podcast is brought to you by John Simmons in Albuquerque, New Mexico. He's a songwriter out there. He's been a friend of mine for a long time now, too. A busker, working hard. And he gave me a donation. That was great. Norma in San Diego, she bought me a nice gift card for the last episode. Thank you, Norma. Brandy in Albuquerque, New Mexico, bought my whole catalog of music on Bandcamp this week. Bandcamp, I think every first Friday of the month for now, is going to be taking none of the revenue from artists. So when you buy music from me or any artist off of Bandcamp on the first Friday of the month, I think it is, all the money goes to the artist. So thanks a lot, Brandy, for buying my whole catalog. That was a thrill. She's been a long time fan of mine. She's been like coming to my shows before she was even legal to come. Like I remember Brandy would sit outside of the concerts and just listen because she was like, I don't know, she was probably 18 or I don't know, maybe even younger, but she's been a great fan. So thank you, Brandy. Robin in Olympia, she became a patron this week. Thanks, Robin. Lisa in San Diego gave me a nice donation for this episode. Thank you, Lisa. Nathan in San Diego became a patron. Thank you, Nathan. That guy is another musician friend of mine, skateboarder. He's a great guy. And I'm really glad that he became a patron. That's really cool. Dew in South Carolina currently. He also lived all over the place, including Denver and Los Angeles. And he's originally from Pennsylvania. But thank you, Dew, for becoming a patron. Check out Dew's music. I said I wasn't going to say his last name, but if you really want to know, I will tell it to you. Just write me and I'll tell you his last name. He's an amazing songwriter too. Juniper in Silver City and your whole I'm sure the whole Juniper family. Thank you guys for becoming patrons this week. Utah Walden in Southern Illinois, I think he is currently, or Missouri somewhere. He became a patron this week. Thank you, Utah. He's a good dude, man. He is a wild and crazy guy. Especially he's getting up there in the years, but he's young in spirit. And him and I, we go out having a good old time, just like he's same age as me, which is 43. So it's like he's keeping up with me. So thanks, Utah, for becoming a patron this week. Rebecca in Gualala, California, became a patron. Rebecca's a Baha'i friend of mine. A lot of you know that I follow the Baha'i faith as closely as I can, and she has become a patron. So that was really cool. Also, Jenny in Albuquerque is taking music lessons from me now. If you need music lessons, people, let me know. We can work out a price. I'm pretty good at it, I think, for beginners to intermediate, some expert levels for certain things. And last but not least, that's it. Thanks to all those people for sponsoring the podcast. And if I get enough patrons on Patreon, this thing is going to be very sustainable for me, and I would appreciate that. That way I can continue to pay my sound guy. And I'm hoping eventually, if I start making enough on the Patreon, I could pay somebody for the video editing and then somebody for the promotion of this podcast, help it get it out there and stuff. I need a team, man. Everybody needs a team. None of us can work alone. I mean, we can, but we'll drive ourselves crazy. And we're not here to do everything by ourselves. We're here to form teams and work together with people. And I can do everything by myself, but it's a lot of work and it's crazy, and I don't have time for relationships. So ideally, I need to get a team together, and this Patreon is the way to go. So if you want to become a patron, that's great. Also, of course, you can keep donating through Venmo and PayPal, Cash App, so on and so forth. Okay, like I said, I'm going to be playing an interview with my parents, but first, I'm going to play a song called Cheap and Sunny. Because when my parents were in here, I asked them what songs they wanted me to play, and they requested some of my older songs about New Mexico. I lived in New Mexico for about, 12 or 13 years, in Albuquerque specifically, but I traveled all over the state. It is one of my favorite states ever, and I miss it a lot. I've said that many times. And I was going to be touring there next week. Actually, I was supposed to be in southern New Mexico on tour. I had a fan write me this week, and she was asking if I'm going to be playing, and I'm not. I had to cancel. The show's been canceled. I mean, it wasn't up to me. It was like nobody's playing out there. So that was a bummer. And so, yeah, I thought it would be interesting to play some songs about New Mexico, or a song about New Mexico, because my parents asked me to, and also I was going to be on tour there. I was supposed to be on tour there coming up this week. The song is called Cheap and Sunny. I really miss playing out. It's really frustrating. I have to admit, I'm getting pretty lonely, sitting up in this house all the time and not seeing all my people out and about at the shows and stuff like that. As a musician, I think that's actually where I get my connection with the world, is through the shows and playing music live. And I don't have that right now, and I'm not desperate. I'm fine. I really am. I'm going to be fine. It is a challenge, though. There's times when I'm sitting here alone and things seem pointless. Yeah, I got a funny meme from a friend. It's about somebody requesting Freebird at a concert. Anybody who knows me knows that is one of the most annoying things ever for me, is when somebody yells out Freebird at one of my concerts, or any concert, really. It's really obnoxious. It's a good song. I like Freebird, and actually I think I might be covering it here soon. But the thing is, man, they don't really want to hear Freebird. They just want to be obnoxious, and somebody should do a documentary about it. But this meme that I got in this week, it was like, I'm even missing people requesting Freebird. That's how kind of lonely I'm getting. And it's true. Anyway, this song I'm going to play here first is called Cheap and Sunny in Albuquerque. When I used to travel around on tour, when I lived in Albuquerque, people would be like, why do you live in Albuquerque? And this was back in the early 2000s, before Breaking Bad came out. Breaking Bad made Albuquerque cool, I think. And that's cool. Albuquerque's always been cool, though. But people would say, why do you live in Albuquerque? And I'd say, because it's cheap and sunny. And as a musician, you travel all the time anyway, why are you going to pay expensive prices in some city where you're never going to be there anyway? And also, not only is Albuquerque cheap, but there's a lot of sun. Even in the wintertime, it might get cold, but the sun still shines. You can sit in your window and absorb the sun. So I wrote this song called Cheap and Sunny. And here it is. Enjoy. Southwest of the U.S. there is a place where the sky is blue almost every day, and it hardly ever rains. Don't worry of your money, it's cheap and sunny. Coyotes howl, the snakes rattle, and the road runners run. Oh, the nights are cold, but the days are warm, and there's always plenty of sun. Don't worry of your money, it's cheap and it's sunny. It's cheap and sunny in Albuquerque. It's cheap and sunny in Albuquerque. dipped on the Nile like the Rio Grande. Albuquerque is such a place of isolation. In the southwest of the U.S. there is a place where the sky's blue almost every day and it hardly ever rains. It's cheap and sunny in Albuquerque. 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 Hey, there's cheap and sunny for you. Hope you enjoyed that. Okay, so I'm going to play this interview with my parents now. It was a heartfelt time for my parents and I. They had been living briefly in the desert of California. Or for one reason or another, it wasn't really working out for them, and so they decided they were going to move back to Virginia. And they had sold their house right before the pandemic hit, actually. And so they've been kind of in limbo out there in the desert by themselves because I didn't want to go out there and infect them with this virus. They didn't want to come here and infect me, vice versa and stuff. So I've been like in touch with them all the time, and helping them as much as I can through the phone, and they've been helping me. But they decided before they go back to Virginia, to move back to Virginia, they were going to come visit me here for a few days, which is really nice. We got to spend some time on the beach. They have a dog, big white dog, and we took him on the beach, and we did the social distancing and wore masks. We even wore masks in the interview. But yeah, it was kind of heartfelt because honestly, I'm not sure how bad things are going to get with this pandemic. We're never sure when we're going to see anybody we love again, but especially now, it's kind of complicated. And so it was kind of a heartfelt time for my parents and I this last few days. And I thought I'd interview them, and just thought it'd be interesting for people to hear about my parents more. So here is the interview with my parents. It is the first interview I have done on this podcast. I don't plan on doing interviews every time. Don't worry. But when I come across interesting people or people that might fit into this podcast, I'll interview them. So here it is. My parents being interviewed. Today I'm here with my parents visiting from... Where are you guys visiting from today?
Today we're coming from San Diego.
You weren't in San Diego already, though.
We came from 29 Palms,
We
California.
came from 29 Palms to visit Martin.
How far away is 29 Palms from San Diego?
168 miles.
Is it 168 miles?
I think it is.
It's about that, yeah.
Nice.
About that.
And so you guys are moving back to Virginia.
Yes, we
that
are.
right? Yeah.
Correct.
We'll be heading east tomorrow morning, and we should be in Virginia. We're leaving on Sunday. We should be there by about Thursday.
Okay. Now, so you two have been my first patrons for this podcast. Thank you very much for that. I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
And what do you guys think of my podcast so far?
I'm very impressed. I am very happy that I'm number one. I was so lucky. I thought, this has never happened to me before. So
yeah.
Thank you, Martin.
Great.
Yeah.
For getting this podcast together.
I've liked it, especially the Wayfaring Stranger song you did, which is one of the favorites of mine.
You like that song a lot?
I do.
When was the first time you heard Wayfaring Stranger, Dad?
I don't know. I can't remember the artist, but I do know that you and I listened to a song in
get right on that mic. Dad.
In Elk Creek, Virginia, that with the Corner Rock Critters, and they did a great version of it. Elk Creek, Virginia is probably one of the most obscure places you would ever want to go to.
Right.
But it's beautiful.
Nonetheless, it's where all the string band music originates, isn't it?
It really is. There's some of the great fiddle players come from there. some of the great guitar players. So it's a it's a hotbed of music, old time music.
Right. So for those of you who don't know much about old time music and string band music, there's a place down in southwestern Virginia. That's what they call it, right, Dad? Southwestern Virginia.
Yes, sir.
That's where my dad is originally from. He's from the southwestern Virginia area, which is not West Virginia. It's Virginia. It's just the southwestern part of Virginia, which is down in the Appalachian Mountains. And I'd say Mount Rogers is probably one of the best known places in that area. Is that right? Or White Top?
That's true. White Top Mountain. People made their own fiddles, made their own guitars, and they are excellent musicians. Just unbelievable musicians.
Now, I have my own theories as to why this string band music originates from down there in southwestern Virginia, and so many people are into it. Galax Fiddlers Convention being one of the oldest actually I think it is the oldest fiddlers convention in the country at this point and in the world. But why do you think so many old-time string musicians come from that area?
Well, I think number one, it's tradition. People back in the mountains and during the day, old days, they had a couple of radio stations, WCKY in Cincinnati, some of the Nashville stations, and they listened to the music, and they would practice it, and it was they perfected it. They in a lot of cases, I was a very amateur musician, but I have heard musicians back in those mountains that were much, much better. Well, you can't say much better, but they were better than the people you were listening to on radio. They just they didn't choose to go out and play music all the time.
And we also went there one time.
To the Galax Fiddlers
We
Convention?
sure did.
Yeah.
When we lived down in Elk Creek, Virginia.
What year did you go to Galax Fiddlers Convention?
I would say it was probably early, 90s?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But it was a great show, I remember.
Right.
It was very exciting and great music, and everybody was having a good time.
Now, this is my mom. She is from New Zealand, which is completely opposite end of the world from southwestern Virginia, where my dad is from. And there's a funny story that I was told when my mom first came from New Zealand, and she went to visit my dad and his relatives down in southwestern Virginia. They needed an interpreter because my mom was speaking English from New Zealand with New Zealand dialect, and my dad's family was speaking the southwestern Virginia Appalachian dialect of English. And so, Dad, you had to sort of interpret for them, didn't you?
I did. I think one of the first thing was...
Get as close to that mic as you can there.
The first thing was that my wife Cherie said, would you like a cup of tea? and well, I think she said, would you like tea? Which in New Zealand would have meant, would you like supper?
Tea time. Tea time.
And my father said, no, miss, I don't drink tea. And so we had to work that out.
Yeah. You meant supper, Mom.
Supper. I didn't. Yeah. We always called it.
Yeah, and
tea time.
In Southwest Virginia, you don't have dinner at 6 p.m. You have supper.
Right.
And so I had some education to learn when I went to New Zealand about what were 3 meals and what time they were served.
And right. you knew when tea time was too.
Yeah. And then on your side of the family, though, Mom, there were some musicians, right? Your dad played the spoons, is that right?
My father played the spoons, and
Yeah.
he was pretty good.
He was pretty good at
Yeah,
it.
he enjoyed it.
Cool. And
Yeah.
who else was playing music over there in New Zealand that you remember growing up?
Well, some of the friends in the family had piano accordions. I remember that.
Piano accordions, which
Yeah.
is basically the full size accordion.
The big one, yeah. That made a lot of music over there.
Did you enjoy that kind of music when you were growing up? Or?
I did. I really enjoyed it. That was a Saturday night fling. Everybody would get together and play their instruments, and my father would try to play the spoons to keep up with it. So it was really quite a lot of fun.
Well, there you go. You could see some of my musical heritage comes from my parents. Thank God. I remember growing up as a child, and my parents always listened to music. Thank God. And I always thought, man, I just want to be a singer. I loved singing along to these songs. We would listen to what some people would consider bad 80s country. We would listen to Kenny Rogers and the Oak Ridge Boys and Alabama and stuff like that. Dolly Parton. And so I was sort of raised on that, and yeah, it's just a really it's just nice that it worked out this way. And of course, I usually thank you guys for encouraging my music at a young age, listening to country music.
Yeah, you were very interested in it always.
So I haven't touched on the fact that we're all wearing masks here today. Mom, do you want to explain why we're wearing masks here on this
We
podcast?
are trying to save people's lives by all of us wearing a mask at this time.
That's right.
The safest way.
And I actually measured it out. They are approximately 6 feet from me right now, just so everybody knows. We're trying to observe that, even though we're in the middle of a pandemic. We decided it was a good idea to do this interview. My parents will be going back to Virginia tomorrow, and who knows when the next time I'm going to see them is. Hopefully it's soon. But with all this going on, it's a little more unpredictable as to what's happening and what's going to happen. And so this is sort of a heartfelt time for all of us. And do you guys want to comment a little bit on that, about what you think is actually happening and what's going to happen?
Well, I don't know. I think about it, and I think everything will turn out. Everything's going to be booming if we ever get through this. I think it'll be good. It'll be a good thing, but I think we should be very careful. Wash our hands, be very 6 feet apart, and wash your hands and wear a mask.
Mm-hmm.
And stay true to that as much as you can. I think we'll get over it. It'll all work out, hopefully.
Uh-huh.
I think that as Sheree said, we have to follow the guidelines that we're giving. I hope we can get back to work. I don't think the economy can take being down for so long. I just hope that everyone will follow guidelines and we get back to work. We can't predict what's going to happen. I think at this point maybe we're on the downhill slide as far as the virus connection. The virus. We're not seeing so many people with the virus, and I'm just hoping that in another 15 days we work it out. We go back to work. The economy was doing great. I've never seen it. Sheree and I are fairly ancient people. We're old, but I've never seen such a good economy, and I just hope we can recover from this and go on. I hope there's a vaccine, but we can't predict anything.
And you guys were alive for the Spanish flu back in 1918, is that right? Or
well,
I wasn't. Not at all. No.
I read about it.
Heard about it.
But we were alive during the when polio was a really big deal, and I can remember standing in line to get polio vaccines, and it was an incredible, scary experience, even for a 3 or 4 year old kid. But
what was scary? What was scary about it that you remember at 3 or 4 years old?
Well, you would see children that were crippled.
Yeah.
I mean, they were just basically in wheelchairs, and they were 3 or 4 years old, and it was just, and your parents would tell you that's what happened, that they have polio, and you go in to get vaccinated, and thank God it all worked out. It was a scary time.
Yeah.
And now it's all, you never hear anything further
about
it.
polio anymore.
Right, it just seems like it's all in the back, never hear another word.
Right.
Anything. So it's great. I mean, and that was what year was that? That was way back.
Yeah, that was the early 50s.
50s, yeah.
And everyone was very concerned about it.
But everybody did what they had to do, and everybody recovered, and it was great. Good results.
It was.
Yeah. Well, I think we can all make it through this. Doing what we're doing, social distancing, wearing masks. It's going to help us all get through it. And as Dad's pointed out, the economy is another factor. And I do think we need to figure out ways to keep the economy going in any way we can through this. It's not going to be easy, though. I do think it's going to be about a year or two, though, before this virus is sort of under wraps, or we have it under control in any way. And I just hope that in that time that we can all stay peaceful and healthy and get through it.
True.
Right.
Very
I
true.
hope and pray that we all do.
Yep.
We really do.
We really need to, I know it's a cliche and it's overused, but the country needs to come together. They need to understand that the left and the right has no meaning now. It's everybody come together and try to solve this problem. It's not a political problem. It's a medical problem. It's just something that we have to come together. We have to take advice from both sides. We can't disregard any advice from the left or right. If it's good advice, let's heed it and try to work it out.
Yeah, we're all in the same boat at this time.
Right.
And I think everything will work out. I hope and pray that it does.
Well, let's switch gears from the pandemic and talk more about my music career, shall we?
Okay.
That's
more fun.
Yeah.
Get some.
Nobody, when it comes to the pandemic, nobody really knows what's going on. We all just kind of make our own best estimates and act accordingly. Don't you feel that way about
I do.
what's going on?
Yes.
I do.
Yes.
And I think everybody's cooperating very well.
I think for the most part, I think that's true too.
Yeah.
I think I've been actually really pleased at how people have cooperated with this.
6 feet apart, wearing masks, and washing
That's
your
right.
hands.
That's right, yeah.
Everybody's aware of it, very much aware.
Right. So, when did you guys realize that, I know Mom used to notice that I sang a lot when I was a child, is that right?
You did, all the time.
I'd always sing a lot, huh?
Martin was always singing.
Yep, and I remember playing Dad's harmonicas he'd have laying around the house. I remember playing some harmonicas, and
He did, he played the harmonica about every day, didn't you?
I think so.
Yeah. And I don't know what key it was, but I know they sounded
It
good.
was probably a C, and it was one of those old wooden reed harmonicas to give you
C or
splinters
G.
in your lips. Yeah.
C or
Really?
G.
Probably, yeah. Or maybe it was a G. What about you, Dad? Do you remember me having an affinity for music as a young child, or
Well,
get closer to that mic?
I think with you were sort of interested in everything. You were, but you weren't molded into following other people. That's the first thing I guess that's what I noticed about you, is you weren't into being you weren't following what other people did. You were basically following your own instincts, but I noticed your music. You were interested in music, and I think I don't even recall your harmonica playing, but
That's probably because you had a couple beers.
but I do remember the when we bought you your first guitar. I'm not sure. I think you were about 14. Is that true? Or
yeah, I think it may have been 13, 14.
Was that the 6-string?
Yeah, that's this guitar that's hanging up right here.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Oh,
That's a Norman guitar from
wow.
Canada.
Yep.
It's
all maple.
It's all maple, and it's a nice guitar. It's still pretty much.
And do you still play that one?
I love this guitar. I still love it.
Yeah.
That guitar is almost pristine, except when he was on stage one day and he was swinging it around the
That's not actually how it happened. I was changing guitars and the strap actually gave away and it did fall, but it's fine.
Yeah, it's good. But back to your original question, I noticed, when at that point, and how much you kept at learning to play the guitar.
Right.
And a couple years later, you were doing a show out in Maryland, and there was people who had been playing for 30 years, 40 years, whatever, and you came on stage, and the dynamics of you playing, and people livened up. At that point, I think I understood that you had a stage presence, and you were, and the people were attracted to you.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate that.
Do you still play this guitar?
I don't play guitar much at all in public anymore. After this podcast has started up, people have been requesting me to play more guitar, but I have. But I usually use my black guitar over there. That's that old, carbon fiber guitar that I usually use a lot.
Okay.
But this Norman, this Canadian guitar that you guys got me for Christmas back when I was about 14, this thing still sounds great. I mean, I love this guitar.
And it still looks good.
But thanks, it does. Well, and it wasn't in my possession for about, I don't know, man, that sounds crazy, but about 15 years it was not in my possession. Is that right, Dad?
Yeah, I had it, and then I think you traded me something like a 2-string guitar for it or something like that.
Here's how the story goes. So my parents gave me this guitar here, this Canadian Norman, when I was about 14 years old. They gave it to me for Christmas. And then, I don't know, about a year or two later, my dad ended up getting a guitar for himself because he thought he wanted to learn how to play.
That didn't work out.
But his guitar ended up getting some holes in the sides, and they're about that big around, about like a BB size hole. And my dad, he just assumed that me and my friends had shot BB holes in his guitar, so he repossessed my Norman guitar from Canada, which is a nice guitar, and he said, "Now you can have my crappy Chinese guitar instead." And so
right.
For about 15 years, I had that Chinese guitar that you had. And then about a year or two ago, my dad said, "Well, why don't you just take this Norman back?" So now I've got the Norman back. So I feel like I triumphed there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Finally got my guitar back.
Yeah.
And then so, do you guys remember how you reacted when you realized that I was gonna go full time with this thing and just go all the way with it, with the music and be a full time musician?
When you came to New Mexico, right?
I was in Albuquerque.
That was
at the time.
beginning
I think it was
of that.
1999.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I said, I was a little bit, I didn't really want to leave home, but I said, well, it's something that you really want to do, and it's your passion, and you've excelled at it. I mean, you've just come leaps and bounds and just doing fantastic, and we're really proud of you and love your music and listen to it all the time.
Yeah, I know you do. You guys
Yeah.
are some of my biggest fans.
Yeah, so we're very, very proud, and we're always anxious to hear you play, and we love these podcasts. We always look forward to them every week now.
Cool.
Yeah, so we're very grateful to you,
Thanks, Mom.
and wish you nothing but the best, and you're doing fantastic, and will forever.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it's taken a long time to
And
get
we
to
just
this
love
place.
coming to visit you, and
Well, yeah.
being with you, and
We always have a good
Yeah.
time, huh?
we do.
Dad, do you remember when you found out I first wanted to do this music thing full time? How you reacted? Or?
Well, I don't think I reacted very positively because because you were even in high school you were teaching college kids how to write and English and so forth. So I thought, well, if he goes on and he's a smart kid and hopefully. I was hoping you would go on and be a professor or something like that.
Right.
And, but I wasn't happy, but I supported it. I would always support you in your choice. And,
Right.
And in later years, I respected it even more. Because
Yeah.
as it turned out, you made the right decision.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Dad. I appreciate that. Yeah, I do remember it was not a super happy moment when I announced it to you guys that I was going to go full time with my music in 1999. I was living in Albuquerque, and I think both of you were just kind of concerned for me and my future, and that's understandable because the music business is not an easy business, if it's a business at all. So yeah, I can understand. If I can imagine if I had a child who said, "Yeah, I'm going to be a musician," I'd be like, "Oh my God, do you know what that means?"
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
understand, but no, you guys have always been very supportive. Even through that time, you guys were like, "Well, this is what he's going to do, so we might as well support him anyway," And so you guys have always been very supportive, and I really appreciate that.
And we thank you for your music.
Yeah, I think once you started writing songs, we saw that hey, he has made the right decision. Some of the songs we feel are just excellent, and we are still puzzled as to why we see people on Good Morning America that are that you can't even hear or understand because the music is so loud, and we say, why the hell isn't Martin on there?
Yeah.
And then we find out, the band, the lead singer's father has won an Academy Award for something.
Right.
And so,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And it's not, but that's life. In
Right.
general.
Yeah, it's a tough business. If it's like I said, if it's a business at all, it's interesting. Like if I were to be a professor or something like that, that comes with its own political nightmares of pulling strings and screwing people over. All these professions do, and as I've thought about it as I've gotten older. Looking back on you guys, watching you guys as I was growing up, seeing you guys having to commute to work. We grew up, we lived in the D.C. area when I was growing up. And if any of you have been to the D.C. area, you know what the rush hour traffic is like in D.C. It could even put Los Angeles traffic to shame. Because I've been through both. And my mom and dad would have to fight traffic to and from work every day, and they'd work really hard. And I think just somewhere along the lines, my life goal became, well, whatever I have to do to get out of that rat race is going to be a success, because I saw how tough it was on you guys, I think. And so when I got out to New Mexico and Albuquerque, and I had a chance to be a musician, I thought, man, that's the way. I'm gonna be free. I'm gonna be free of it all. And so I think that's probably a big part of why I made the decisions I did. When I did go to college and I was in the university, I saw all the corruption, even at that age, at the age of 19, 20 years old. I saw the corruption of higher education, including the fact that most people have to take out loans to go to school, and so they're making interest off these loans that all these kids are taking out. And I just thought the whole system to me was sort of a sham, and I thought that's why I felt comfortable getting out of it.
Well, it's you're absolutely right. I think some of the when some of the kids go to college, they pay back their loans. The interest is up front, so they may pay 10 years of payments, which aren't low payments, but they may pay 10 years of payments, and the original loan may go down, say, $1,000.
Right.
And that should be illegal.
It should.
But I think that's what happens when the government gets involved in supporting things. The government doesn't run for a profit. So unless you're running a business for a profit, it never works out. Except the government can print money, so,
right.
So it goes on and on. But that's my opinion of that.
Yeah.
Well, I think you were just lucky that you found out what you really wanted to do, and I think that with Albuquerque was the beginning.
Yeah, God bless Albuquerque.
Yeah,
huh?
Right.
My parents still miss Albuquerque just like I do, huh?
We really enjoyed Albuquerque. We
and
loved
New
it.
Mexico,
Beautiful.
what a great place.
Yes.
Man, what a great place.
Yes, a lot of good memories.
Yeah.
Thank you, Martin.
I can still remember when Martin, we came out to see Martin, and Martin had converted a chicken coop into a studio, and it was nice. Recording studio, and it was nice. It was great.
Yeah, those were good times. We had some good times over there in Albuquerque and in New Mexico. Well, I'm going to ask you all, since you're my special guest today, you're my first interview on my podcast. Congratulations there, too.
Oh,
thank you. Thank you. We love it.
You guys were my first patrons and my first interviewees. I'm going to ask you, what songs would you like me to play this week on this podcast episode? Well, guys, I appreciate you having you on, and appreciate you doing this with me today. Anything else you want to say for?
No, well, thank you for having us. It's an honor. I really love it. Hope you call us back sometime.
What?
Hope you call us back to come in sometime.
Oh, yeah, I will. Maybe after this is all over, I'll have you guys do the first episode after the pandemic is over. How's that?
Oh, cool.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We really, as Sheree said, we listen to you all the time. We think, your library of songs that you have written is it's amazing.
Well, thanks, Dad. Appreciate it.
And they're great songs, so we're very proud of you, as you know.
Yeah.
And just keep on writing those songs and playing the music,
Thanks, man. I will. I appreciate hearing that, Dad. It's
and
nice
you're a very good entertainer, and people love you, and
Yeah.
Yeah, I think your stage presence is, and it's hard to see that now since you're not on stage. But I think you command the stage, and Sheree and I have always said it's not good enough just to go up and play the music. You got to go up and get the crowd involved. They have to like you, and you're great at that.
Thanks, man. I've worked very hard at that. That's something I noticed. I think when I first started playing publicly, I knew you had to grab the audience somehow. Whatever you could do to get them to pay attention. And I think that's part of what excites me about this field, is that it's not about credentials and degrees and stuff like that. It's about the proof is in the pudding. If you can turn somebody on with a song that you play, and even if nobody in the audience ever heard you before, if you can get that crowd going, that's a reality. That's truth to me. And that's why I think I entered this field. And as an artist in general, that's what interests me, is that as an artist, you have to really prove yourself to people constantly.
You do.
Yeah, you do a good job.
A degree doesn't mean that you can go out and make people like you and get excited about you. It means that some professor has agreed with what you're saying, and
right.
I mean, nothing wrong with that, but it's a hell of a lot harder to go out on stage and just draw the people in and make them like you.
Yeah.
You don't. It's almost like you don't learn that. That's something that you're gifted with.
Yeah, or at least gifted with the desire to learn to do it. As I study a lot of songwriters and musicians and comedians. Comedy's so big these days too. And, it takes us 15, 20, 25 years sometimes, 30 years even. I mean, if you look at Charles Bukowski, that guy, he didn't really get any success until he was in his mid-40s. I mean, I don't even know if I've had any success, and I'm 43. But that's the thing, it's this lifelong pursuit of learning a skill of, like, being able to communicate to an audience.
Yep.
And to me, and in my mind, there is no higher skill to learn in life is to connect with an audience and a group of people. I think that's an amazing skill, and I think that's actually what keeps me in this thing.
There's probably no more difficult skill to come by.
Right.
And I'm sure you miss it at this point too.
Oh, I miss it. I miss it terribly. I'm so bummed that I'm not going to be traveling this summer. But I'm not so bummed that I'm like paralyzed. I can't be that bummed about it because there's nothing I can do about it. But
right.
Sometimes I wake up in the morning and say, man, I'm not going to be able to go. I'm not going to Montana this summer and seeing my people up there. And it's a bummer.
Life and vocations are not static. They're dynamic. I was in IT for years, and believe me, I learned that if you came every Monday morning you came in, it was almost like a re-education.
Right.
It's life is not static.
Yeah, I mean, when a global pandemic happens, you think you realize that too. It reminds you, like, oh my God, everything's changed overnight. It's because it's dynamic. You're right.
Mm-hmm.
For everybody, right?
Yep. Well, guys, thanks again. Good having you, and I love you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll do a virtual high five or something here.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you. Thank you very
Yeah.
much.
Been a pleasure having you as my first interviewees and guests on this show. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Have a healthy and peaceful week. Peace out. See you next time, God willing. Everybody say goodbye. 3, 2, 1. Goodbye. You guys are supposed to say goodbye. 3, 2, 1. Goodbye.
Bye.
Goodbye. We gotta get used to this.
And that's my good old parents. They're ever loving. I love them dearly. We've all, definitely had issues, but we've worked through them. And I think that is the definition of family and friends, is like when you have conflict, because you're going to have conflict. Everybody's going to have conflict with, no matter how much you love somebody, you're going to have conflict with them. But the test of family and friends is, do you work through the conflict and come out the other side stronger? Or do you avoid the conflict and make your relationship worse and then not really have a relationship? You just kind of like faking it. So my parents and I, we've been through a lot together. They're great. They're really great. So, as I've been kind of warning about this in previous episodes, but I do feel like there's more dissension happening amongst the masses these days, the common folks. We have people out there protesting, wanting to get the economy going again, and I cannot blame them. I totally get it. People are going broke, and it's not cool. It's really not cool, and people are not even sure if this is really necessary to go broke over this. And then you have the other side of people who are like judging these people for protesting and going out there, and I understand that too. I do think it would be nice if these protesters would wear a mask just out of, what's the word? it would just be good form to wear a mask, social distance, even if you are protesting, even if you don't think there's a virus. Out of respect for others, you just wear a mask, go out there and protest. But that's just my opinion. Again, I am not going to force my opinion on any of these protesters. I actually think I have a lot of admiration for people that are going out and protesting. It takes a lot of guts, it takes a lot of time and energy to do this. It's not something you just go do. It's like, I think that's what makes the United States of America great, is the fact that people protested and made things the way they wanted to be, and they stand up for what they believe in. I have protested. I was part of the Occupy movement in 2011. I was part of the protests of 9/11 back in 2001. And I think when people protest, even if I don't agree with what they're protesting, I have respect for them for standing up for something they believe in. That's just how I feel about protesting. And I just don't think it's a good idea for us to point fingers at them and say, you should be wearing a mask, because I don't hear any of them telling me to not wear a mask. So we just need to respect each other, even though we have different opinions about how this is going. I think the masses need to respect each other, because we're not foes of each other. The real foe is the elite people who let this happen to us. That is the real foe. This virus and this pandemic, I think most people can agree, could have been avoided a lot more than it has been, because the people who knew it was coming let it happen. And this has happened throughout history. I'm not going to name any of the specific events, but if you look throughout history, there's been much intelligence before wars, conflicts of all kinds. The intelligence just lets it happen to the people, because they want the people to get upset and enraged with each other and start to quarrel with each other and start a war, because these wars stimulate economies, and who ends up benefiting? These elite people. So if you're gonna point fingers and judge somebody, please judge the elite, the ultra rich, who are benefiting from us fighting with each other, us common people from fighting each other, and they're benefiting from all of our money. They're just taking advantage of us all the time. And I think we're at a really powerful crossroads right here. If we can take control of this, we might be able to bring the elite down with this thing. And I'm kind of excited about that. It could actually happen. I think one day it is going to happen. If it doesn't happen now, it will happen one day. People will realize us common people are all the same, and we can't let these elites, whoever they may be, these puppet masters, keep enslaving us the way they are. Anyway, okay, that's my rant for this episode. I know a lot of people probably don't really want to know my opinions, and that's cool too. I get it. What do I know, really? I'm just some lackadaisical musician of hack or something. I don't know I don't know what I am, but I've been through a few of these already in my life. starting with the first, what was it called? The Gulf War. I saw that back in the early 90s. Anyway, this last song I'm going to play for this podcast is called Richman. It is a song that I wrote a while back. Again, my parents requested it. It's a song about a rich man who realizes he has so much money that he'd never be able to spend it in his lifetime. And so he starts giving it back to the poor people. And at the time when I wrote this, I was kind of buying into how Bill Gates was apparently giving back a lot of his wealth. And I think he has. I think he really has done. I think he probably really has done a lot of good things. I think he's suspect currently, though, with this whole let's get these vaccinations out there and stuff. I'm not saying he's a bad dude. I'm not saying I know that for sure, because I don't know anything, really. But that's what it's starting to look like to me. It's starting to look like he's going to benefit off of this whole thing in a big way. Anyway, it's just this song is about a rich man who gives away his money to the poor people. And I heard it recently said by a really well-respected economist, I think, but he's also just a smart dude, Chris Martenson of the Peak Prosperity podcast video channel on YouTube. Check out Peak Prosperity if you haven't already. But he was saying how if he were the leader, he would give money to the poor people first and bail them out, because it's all going to end up at the top anyway. And that's true. That's why rich people are rich, because they know how to handle money and deal with money. And that's why poor people are poor, because we don't really understand money. I mean, we just kind of like, what, okay, just like, I just want to get by, you know? Whereas some people are like, I want to like control. And anyway, I'm not saying anything about rich people either. Rich people are cool too. I'm just saying this is a song about a rich man who gives away his money to the poor people because he realizes he has so much he'd never be able to spend it. And if he were to leave it to his children, he's just going to spoil his children and create a bunch of ingrates. So here goes Rich Man. I'm a rich man, I'm living on the hill, and I'm looking at the city below. Street lights twinkle where the poor man sleeps. Go back to sleep, poor man. I'm thinking about my money and wondering, how much do I really need to last me until I die? 'Cause even rich people die. My savings sitting in the bank is nearly enough for 7 happy lifetimes of comfort and ease. Comfort and ease. I'm in the mansion at the top of the hill. I will all of my fortune to my children. It will only create lazy people who don't appreciate, Tomorrow I'll go to my bank and give all of my money to the people living in the slums, in the slums. In the slums. All right, I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you enjoyed this whole episode, and appreciate y'all listening. Stay healthy and peaceful, please, everybody, and I will see you next week, God willing.
Goodbye.
We got to get used to this.